Hi everyone. Today, as you can see, I'm not going to talk about motorcycles, I'm going to talk about cars. This is my good old Citroen Jumpy 2007. In some countries, in Britain I think, it's called Dispatch. It's a 2-liter HDI diesel engine, and it's got about 100,000 kilometers on the clock. Simply dividing 100,000 by 10 years, you can see that I don't drive it too much, and I mostly drive short distances, and especially during the winter the engine doesn't heat enough to operating temperature. So a couple of weeks ago I came across an old Webasto Thermo Top Z, I think, and I decided to install it in my car. The primary purpose is not to heat the cabin, but to preheat the engine so that I start it warm. Because during winter, when the temperatures are below zero, I could hear that the engine really struggles with the cold, and also I was really fed up with cleaning the frost and snow from the windshield. So I hoped, and I hoped correctly, that preheating the engine will help me to warm the engine and to make smoother warm starts and to clean the windshield very easily. So I'm going to show you where I installed it, how I installed it, how to connect the pipes, how to connect the electrical wires, and also how to connect the remote control for the Webasto. So let's start. So this is the engine bay of the Citroen 2-liter diesel, and I tried to install the Webasto here in this place, but there is not enough space here to place it. So actually the space is here. As you can see, the Webasto is already in, and it's an old Thermo Top Z/CD, so it's a diesel version, analog version of the Webasto, which I always said are the best ones because they are quite simple. As for the installation, there is a piece of metal here where the bolts are, which is quite rigid, and I installed sort of support for the Webasto and put it here, and then I fixed Webasto using these strips to the chassis and to the body. It's pretty rigid and it's okay. As for the water, it is necessary to install it to the they call it short circuit, which means to the circuit which goes to the heater of the cabin and to the and goes through the engine. So here in the rear side of the of the engine bay, this left pipe goes to through the engine, and the right pipe goes to Webasto. So I had to cut the right pipe and install a bypass for the thermotop, which goes here to the input of the Webasto and goes back to the other end of the pipe. The water flows I think like this through the Webasto and back to the engine. I believe I did it a couple of weeks ago. I don't know, but I think so. I will show you in the video later. I will show you the drawing. As for the Webasto itself, it has a exhaust pipe which leads. There is no muffler. And the pipe leads directly here, warming the radiator as well with the exhaust fumes. The water pump of the Webasto is here, and this is the fuel line. The fuel pump is located here, and as I didn't want to connect it to the fuel system of the car, I wanted to have it separately. I installed a separate tank for the fuel. So the fuel line goes like this, here, and to this bottle, which is 1 liter bottle. This is the air intake for the bottle, and this is where the Webasto takes the diesel. It's pretty tough. You can just put a bottle here and use some electrical stripes to fix it. As for the electrical thing, Webasto has I think 5 wires. 2 wires are the actual power to the main board of the Webasto, and 2 wires are one is temperature sensor, and second is the water pump. So I connected the power leads directly to the battery through switch, which I will talk about later, and I connected the temperature sensor and the water pump to the other switch in the cabin. So this is the wiring. It is also quite important to take the ground or the minus from the nearest point in the cabin, because sometimes it's happened that the grounds are actually not grounds and are not identical with the battery. So here below the band there is a ground output which I used for connecting the minus. I hope I will be able to focus it. It's over there, and I lead the minus here to the ground terminal of the Webasto. As the battery is located inside the cabin, I had to lead the white wire behind on the back of the engine bay, and I drilled a hole over here next to the wire input and got to the cabin. In the cabin I have 2 switches which are normally switched on, but I use them just to permanently switch the whole system off. And this cable, this Wago thing is used to disconnect the remote control system, because I have installed the remote control for the Webasto. Here in the battery compartment here, it is quite simple. It's quite difficult to do it with one hand. The wiring is here. This is the plus terminal, positive terminal. I connect it here. This is the plus for Webasto through the fuse. Connect it to the Webasto mainboard and connect it to the remote controller, which is somewhere else. Also, I install an LED signaling to show me that the Webasto is actually running and that the remote control signal worked. The cable is here, running here, and it's stuck here. It's a 12-volt LED stripe, so you just connect it directly to the 12 volts. Behind this compartment here, behind this compartment here, this is where the cable comes from the engine bay. Behind the compartment here, there is a cheap Chinese remote-controlled relay switch. As you can see, it's powered all the time because the LED here is on. I don't know if it's visible on the camera. Yeah, here. So it's on all the time, waiting for the remote signal. I just put it here because there are not many vibrations. So this is how the system is connected in the car, and I will draw it on the paper to show how it actually works and how it is connected electrically. It is important while installing the Webasto in the car, watch for water leaks, and as the Webasto is almost above the expansion bottle of the engine, of the coolant, it is important to fill it with water so that the Webasto pump doesn't work without water. So this is the very simple scheme of how the water is connected in the car. We have the engine here, this is the cabin heating, and this is Webasto, and this is the water pump of Webasto. So I had to disconnect the tube, the pipe here, which is right before the water enters the cabin to the radiator. It's very easy to disconnect it here, to cut the tube and to make the tubing, which is this. Let's say this is the other end of the tube, and this leads to the engine near the thermostat. So very simple connection, just you have to make sure that the water is not leaking anywhere, because it happened to me, and all the water leaked, and that was not very pleasant situation, as I was like 10 kilometers from my home. So I had to drive very carefully without almost all water. The heating is above the expansion bottle of the engine, so it is necessary to fill the tubes before connecting them to Webasto. So from this place and this place it is necessary to fill the system with water and then fix it on Webasto. As for the electrical things, this is the battery inside the cabin, and from the positive lead from the battery it goes to the mechanical switch, just for me to be able to switch it off completely, to the plus terminal of Webasto. And from inside the engine bay I took ground and connected it to the Webasto, as well as to the remote control unit. Which is basically a remote controlled relay. The relay switches this plus, this positive, these 12 volts from the battery to one of its outputs, and leads to through the mechanical switch to the two wires which come out of Webasto, and these are the temperature sensor, which is in my case a yellow cable, and the water pump, which is the black cable. I connected the two cables together and switched them as one. The temperature sensor here, in fact there is no temperature sensor. These 12 volts which go from the remote control unit just say to Webasto that the temperature is way below 0, and it switches on, having read the voltage from the temperature sensor. So once you connect 12 volts to the temperature sensor, the Webasto electronics thinks that it's below 0 and it will switch on. Because I think from the technical data that Webasto will not switch on when it's above 5 degrees centigrade, I think. So in fact, when I want to switch on the whole heating, I will, with the signal from the remote controller, I will switch on the water pump, it runs immediately, and I will tell Webasto it's below 0, and it switches itself on. As for the current consumption, which I was able to measure, this remote unit in standby consumes 7 milliamps, which is basically nothing, and the Webasto itself it consumes 0.04 milliamps. So it is really low current, and you can leave it switched on because it doesn't drain the battery at all. When this remote control unit is switched on, it consumes about 20 milliamps per relay. I bought a 4-channel unit, so in my case I have to be careful not to switch the other relays, so that the consumption is not above 80 milliamps. As for the LEDs, these were quite simple. They are connected just here to the ground. So these are the LEDs. So it tells me when the system is switched on and should be working. As for the mechanical switches here, it's just from my good feeling about all this, because I can completely switch the power to Webasto as well as to the water pump. So it's not necessary to be there, but it's always better once you install something which works with fuel, electricity and water of the car, to be able to switch it completely off. Also here, as you could see in the video, I used old pipes from some older cars which my friend provided me with, and connected them together. So once I need to completely disconnect the Webasto, I will just put a connecting tube here and, well, here, and I can take out the Webasto off the engine, and it will work as normal. So I hope the information helped, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I will be as helpful as possible to assist you with the installation. And also remember that you are doing it at your own risk.